If you're like me and you suffer from bending your arms too early, sometimes that bar crashes on you when you do cleans. Maybe you're the type that the bar kicks out from the floor, it's hard to get around the knee, or even if you jump forward in your clean, we're gonna talk about ways to fix all of those problems. Hey crew, Coach Josh here with GarageGangGyms.com, and today we're going to be working through some common faults, some common errors that you may be experiencing in your clean. And they haven't gone away after you've reviewed all of the other videos. So if you haven't seen any of the other videos from this clean series, please stop, go back and watch them. We take it one step at a time to make sure you understand what you're trying to accomplish with the clean. And for a lot of you, that's already going to fix your problem. So go back. Then, for those of you that are still here, those drills didn't quite fix it. There's still something missing, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. In fact, chances are it's all linked to one problem. It's the fact that you probably have the wrong tension in your arms. You're either bending your arms too early, or you're confusing what it is that your arms need to be doing when in your clean. So we're going to be talking about that, and it's something I have suffered through for a while as well, and I'm really trying to get a hold of it myself, and I want to give you guys some tips on how you guys can do it as well. So we're going to be starting from the floor. We're only going to be doing a few cleans today, but I will be talking you guys through how you can use some of the old drills that we've talked about in the past in your training so that you guys can keep working on better clean technique, as well as making sure those arms are doing their appropriate thing so that we avoid things like the bar looping around our knees, it's slowing down as it comes into the hip, us jumping forward, it crashing on us, all of which we can go back into fixing our arm tension. So let's get to work. Okay, so the first common error I want to talk about actually is going to blend into a lot of other errors you might be experiencing. And in fact, it's something that so many people do, and that's bending your arms too soon. So in the clean, we do need to bend our arms, and it has to happen after that bar has left our contact point, okay? Anytime before that, if we're bending our arms, we're gonna be pinned to that bar too long. It's not gonna be able to float well enough so that that pull can actually be me pulling under the bar. So we're gonna be talking about all kinds of different mishaps that you may have. And in fact, for a lot of people, it's the fact that their elbows are bending too soon that is causing all of these other problems that we'll talk about, like kicking the bar out off the floor, looping the bar around the knees, after the extension going out in front of us, or even the bar crashing on us. All of which, for some people, can be fixed if we just fix what's going on with the arms, okay? So you've probably heard 1,000 times, you even heard it in some of my videos, to try to relax your arms. But what we're gonna do today is actually add purposeful tension to your arms, okay? So this is something that plagues me just as much as anybody else. As the weight gets a little bit heavier, I get a little bit more tense and I flex a little bit more. And in trying to make the bar move faster off the floor, rather than always relying on my technique and my positions to do that, sometimes I gain speed by using my arms. And this actually happens a lot as people are coming past the knee and they know that the bar needs to be speeding up as they're going through that contact point through the extension. And what they'll do is they'll perceive this transition as, oh, the bar is slowing down, because it kind of is a little bit, but then we have to keep accelerating. And during that transition is when a lot of people are gonna bend their arms. And some people bend them immediately off the floor. So we're gonna try to kill all those birds with one stone. So in the hang video, we talked about how you can put the bands up and you can do those pullbacks, right? That was a great way to start to think about what it is that we're going to be doing today. What we're actually going to do is, instead of thinking about pulling that bar, we're going to think about trying to push it away from us. So what I'll invite you to do right now is take your arms and try to reach down as hard as you can so that your arms are locked out. You're going to feel a lot of tension in your back. Now, what happens when you just let go of those arms for a second? Those arms are already, those shoulders are going to start to hike up, right? We're tight and then they hike up. That's literally the tension we want to hold through this pull, through the extension. As soon as I even think to bend my arms, my shoulders are already going to rise through the shrug portion, as some coaches would talk about, which we've never talked about. We're going to let those shoulders rise naturally. That's enough separation that as soon as I extend and even think about pulling, that bar is gonna start coming away from my leg. And just that slight separation between my leg and the bar is enough that, okay, I'm now away from the bar technically, so I can pull against that bar and rack that bar. So for today's purposes, I'm only gonna be doing power cleans because it's not so much about the squat anymore. It's more about making sure you learn these technical cues better. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna approach the bar. I'm going to reach my arms as straight as I can as I lift my chest. And then as I'm doing the pull from the floor, and that's what we'll start with, is just what's referred to as a clean pull, something we haven't even covered. So with this clean pull, I'm gonna try to just keep pushing against the bar the entire time. And that's what I'm thinking about, is trying to push it down or push it away. So I'm gonna line up, I'm gonna get tight, I'm gonna take a big breath, lift my chest, and I'm gonna push my arms into this bar until I feel like my arms are as straight as possible. And then I'm just gonna keep pushing against the bar as I go through just my deadlift portion. So I'm gonna take a breath. And then reset. So this is the starting of us working on keeping those arms locked out. So I'll breathe, stretch, and back down. If you can do that clean deadlift without bending your arms, then we can start inviting it coming off of your legs a little bit faster. So doing the clean deadlift is so important first, because if we immediately start thinking, oh, I need to get height on this bar, you're only gonna exacerbate the problem worse. You're gonna start pulling early because you know that bar needs to come up. So before we actually start doing the clean pull, there's another thing I wanna talk about. And this is gonna kill one of the common errors, which is coming off the floor. Oftentimes people off the floor, and we talked about this in the last video, of the dynamic versus the static start. That dynamic start tends to kick that bar away. Why does that happen? So if the bar is looping out off the floor, two things could be happening. The first thing is, as you're getting tight, your hips are dropping. If your torso is too tall, your shoulders are too far behind the bar, that bar can only go out. And then either it's gonna loop around the knee and you're gonna pull it back and then go, which it's gonna kind of swing out on you anyway. Or you're gonna feel it, you're gonna tip over, and then all of a sudden you're being pulled down even more so than you would have been by the bar otherwise. So we're gonna do static starts with these clean deadlifts, and to kill another bird, which is looping around the knee. All of these are connected. What we're gonna think about is not only are we pushing this way, but as we push against the floor and push our knees out of the way, so I'm pushing against the floor, pushing my knees out of the way, I'm gonna be trying to take that bar and push it back towards my hip, even though we've talked about it being a pull in the past. The pull helped you feel your lats and your mid-back. Today, we're past that. We're gonna be locked down even tighter through our lats. I'm gonna push against the floor, push my knees back, and push that bar toward my hips. All of that's gonna happen. And then after I've felt that I've cleared the knee, I can keep pushing down, I can come up. I'm gonna finish through the floor and just do the deadlift. So I'll line up. So I'm over exaggerating how far I'm gonna go over the bar while keeping my arms as straight as I can. Okay, once you've fixed that problem, so now you can now do the deadlift with your arms straight. You're not looping the bar out in front because you have a better starting position. You're not looping that bar around your knees. Now what we need to do is start adding height to the bar off of the extension point. So once we get here, an advanced cue that we haven't talked about, because when we were first doing the high hang clean, we did that tall clean drill. And in order for the tall clean drill to make sense to you, we had to assume, or I had to assume you just blew past this, that at the extension point, as soon as we get to the extension point, we initiate our pull. Okay, that was the premise we had to work with in order for that drill to work for you so that we could move on. But technically, what I want going through your head is as we're doing this clean, I get it out of my way, I'm pushing toward, I keep pushing. I need to finish, let the bar separate, because all I do is just immediately think about pulling my arms and my shoulders just rise naturally. So I need to wait until that bar has separated from me, from my extension point, before I pull. So that's what we're gonna do, is we're gonna do a clean high pull, which is gonna help us fix the bar looping away from the floor, looping away from the knee, early arm bend, because we're waiting, purposefully pushing against the bar the entire time until we get to that extension point, then we're gonna pull. Now, this is going to look a little segmented or mechanical. It's not going to be too fluid yet, and it shouldn't be, because we're still trying to feel what this is like. As we get better and do this over weeks and weeks and weeks, whether we're adding this into our warm-ups or we're actually doing a dedicated clean pull, which we'll talk about more in the next video, where we're talking about programming and things to consider when you're trying to correct for some of these problems in your program. It's going to be segmented at first, but then eventually, week after week, we're going to add flow, and there's going to be an effortless height to this bar, okay? So I'm getting set. I'm gonna take my breath. We're gonna take our time. I'm pushing down into the bar, pushing down through my feet, pushing my knees back. I'm pushing the bar towards my contact point. I hit my contact point. I'm gonna finish extending, and then I'm going to pull. So it's gonna look very segmented. Big breath. I finish my extension before I pull. Now, something I'm really working on with this is another common fault, which is, for people, the bar tends to fly away from them. The reason is, as they're extending, instead of extending up, they're extending forward. So what happens is they pull that bar toward them. As soon as it clears their knee, they're pushing their hips forward. That forward momentum, as they extend, is going to make them loose in their upper body, because their shoulders come behind the bar, first of all. But secondly, all that forward hip movement is sending that bar forward. So the bar is going to loop out, which will bring us to the crashing later, and we're going to be fixing that as well with this one drill, or this one idea. So if we push the bar back towards our hip and our contact point, we push against the floor, what's happening is, as the bar is being pushed towards our contact point, at the very last second, my hips will come forward slightly, so that I stay balanced. I'll meet the bar, and then both me and the bar can go vertically together. That only happens if I purposefully try to keep my hips back as long as I can. My hips can extend vertically, but not horizontally. As soon as I bend horizontally, I lose my balance and can't stay on my toes. So as we do this next high pull, we should be able to push, finish, and pull, and keep our balance. You can see I'm on my toes. I would have the bar here. As the weight gets heavier, we're not going to be able to just hold this bar. But what we can do is finish, reset, then bring our feet back to the floor. So whether we're doing it in a warm-up or actually doing high pulls, we should be able to maintain this balance through the extension point as long as we would like. So let's put that to the test. Again. Again. Again, you don't have to hold it up there like I just was doing, but the idea is, if it's going in a straight line and we're balanced, we should be able to hang out, right? Again, I held it, it's a little lighter so I can. As it would get heavier, it would look like this and down. But that eliminates so many of the common faults already. Okay, so we've done the clean deadlift to a high pull, the clean high pull, whatever you want to call it. When you don't do the high pull or don't do the shrug or whatever you want to call it, we can call that just a clean deadlift. Now, if you're struggling at this point with just keeping those arms locked, go back to the clean deadlift. Now, if in your lifting you notice, oh, I only start pulling as soon as I pass the knee, then with your clean training, whether it's in your warm-up or again, with the programming video, we'll talk about how you can implement these segmented drills into your actual training. But nothing's stopping you from doing a complex, it's called, so you link multiple movements together in a set. So like the one I'm about to describe, you might go straight arm deadlift, dip, do a hang deadlift, then maybe do a hang power, where you're just trying to emphasize that point where you're really struggling to keep those arms straight, you're emphasizing those points. Or let's say you have a tendency to bend your elbows right off the floor. Maybe you'll get tight, push it to the knee, bring it back down, push it to the knee, then go through our hang clean drill that we've talked about in the past. All of the drills we've covered can in themselves help correct different problems. If, again, going below the knee and past the knee, you have a tendency to loop and then pull, you can do a clean, reset, do a hang clean, maybe a hang pull, go from below the knee, whatever it is that you need to do around the problem that you're having. I've done clean pulls in my programming before where I'm just trying to focus on moving my knees. So I'll do a clean pull from the floor, and then I might do 3 or 4 just from below the knee, just so I can focus on going around the knee and keeping my arms straight. That's where all of those previous drills will still hold merit in your warm-ups and in your workouts themselves, is because doing the full clean doesn't necessarily make you automatically better at the full clean if you're having specific issues. If you're having just general timing issues, more cleans can help you do that. And that brings up a really important point. If you're super new to doing cleans, let's say you've been doing cleans for less than a year, less than 2 years even, you may just need more time doing cleans, and some of these faults will kind of suss themselves out, okay? But so long as you're going into it with the intent of trying to do it a certain way, that will help give you better technique. Now, if you're 6 years in to doing cleans, let's say, and you're having these faults, you definitely need to watch the next video where we talk about programming, where we're gonna say, oh, you are bending your arms here, or it's crashing on you, or you feel slow, or it's tough around the knee, your lower back feels tight, whatever. You need to make sure you're developing your program around your weaknesses. But if you've only been lifting for 2 years, you're weak just in the fact that this is still pretty new to you, especially if you only practice once or twice a week. If you really want to get good at something or fix a common error that you have, you need to be practicing at that error or that skill itself at least 2, if not 3 or more times per week. Now, every time you increase how many times per week that you're working on that drill or that skill, you certainly need to be conscious of how much weight am I doing, how many reps am I doing, how many sets am I doing, how hard are these exercises for me? And again, that's something we'll go more in depth on in the next video. So, we've fixed the bar looping out off the floor. We're in the process of fixing the arm bend, and that may plague you forever. We aren't looping around the knee. We're holding ourselves because we're pushing that bar towards us with our arms straight, and that's keeping our shoulders over the bar longer so that we are avoiding not only that bar looping out, but our shoulders coming behind the bar too soon. We're already avoiding the jumping forward. If that's one of your problems as well, as you jump forward, chances are it's because your hips are traveling forward because you don't understand how to stay over, how to keep your arms straight. Now what we need to talk about is the bar crashing on you. And this is something we covered in the last video as it pertains to your hook grip, but also in the first video of how to actively rack that bar and stand up. So our goal is now to make sure we don't have any of those faults. So it's a lighter weight, that's fine. As we go through the deadlift, it lifts off of our legs, then we initiate the pull. Our goal is to maintain this hook grip all the way around into the rack. Now, for a lot of you, that mobility is gonna be extremely difficult to maintain this hook grip, but it's something I want you to strive toward. If you're struggling with your front rack mobility, I have a video where we talk about just your front rack mobility and the front squat so that it can really help open you up. I will link those down in the description below. So we're gonna do a clean pull where we balance. Then we're gonna do a clean and hold that hook grip. So here we go. Balance and a power clean. Balance. Into power clean. So some other good things about doing this balance cue and maintaining your hook grip on the power clean is that balance where we're staying here. Usually people have no idea that that bar needs to drift towards you. We talked about it in the last video in that the bar doesn't travel straight, it actually does favor towards you. And this balance cue is really gonna help you master that. It's gotta come toward you, which will make you feel like you gotta come way back here, but then you stay solid, you push against the ground, you get yourself in a good balanced position that you can be here. Now, if that bar is coming up here and you're balanced, that means that bar came off of you really straight. Because if it was going forward or backward, you'd fall onto your heels or have to take a step forward. So that bar is as close to perfectly straight as you're gonna get it for that repetition. Then, if we can maintain that drive, pull, rack, then we have to do less work to get under it. Because the bar separated from us, we pulled ourselves, and that pull can happen straight. We're holding that hook so we stay connected so it doesn't have a chance to crash on us. There's no looping out, there's no jumping out. And if we can maintain that good solid position, our entire upper back is gonna stay tight. I have a tendency not only to bend my arms, but to let go. And if I let go too soon and I try to rack it, I don't get to use the bearings to help me turn it over. And we talked about that in the last video. But it also, there's separation because I let it go. Even if it's only a little bit of separation in my hand, there's separation nonetheless. And that's more for the bar to drop down on me. And even as it's getting heavier and heavier and heavier, we can't let that bar drop any more than absolutely necessary. The bar will go up and will come down a little bit, but the more that happens, the more of that potential force that bar is coming down on us with, and it has a higher rate of making us move out of position, and we don't want that. And the tendency is for that elbow crash, which is another common fault that a lot of people have, is they'll rack the bar, and as they're coming up, they immediately do this. Why? They're not tight enough. So holding the hook grip can really fix that problem too. Now it does mean some aches and pains may come out of this because boy, you gain a lot of tension. But like we talked about in that mobility drill video where we use straps on the bar to get into that position, do some front squats, that's gonna help prime those positions to maintain that tension. Now, will you, as you're going heavier, end up going back into your old habits, letting your hook grip go a little sooner? Absolutely, okay? But in the future, we wanna keep maintaining that hook grip with heavier weights longer and longer and longer and longer. You may always, on your max weights, let go a little bit, and that's perfectly fine. You know, Olympic gold medalists do that too. But having the intent of trying to do that, we're always gonna catch it a little bit tighter. So again, all we focused on to fix so many common errors is having our arms straight the entire time, making sure we have our balance, and making sure we hold on to that hook. So let's do a couple more reps before we get out of here. Then here's an example of some heavier cleans. Everything's still the same. Keeping my arms straight, trying to stay over the bar for as long as I can, pushing the bar back to me. I wait until the bar separates off of my contact point before I pull. And on the second one, even though I pull behind a little soon, waiting until it comes off of my contact point is the only way I was able to pull under fast enough. So there you have it, guys. One simple thing, even though it's very complicated, it's still simple on paper, that can fix a lot of our common faults. Whether it's swinging out, crashing on us, whatever it is, we talked about it, we figured it out, and it's as simple as making sure your arms are doing the right thing. Now, it will take some time for you guys to get this in your mind. Just like we talked about earlier in the video, if you've only been doing this for a little while, especially this new concept of your arm tension, it's gonna feel weird. There's gonna be days that your weights are gonna be way lower than usual. Do not get discouraged. We need to stay focused for at least 5 workouts before we decide if this is the right thing for you. And again, if you guys haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. We're gonna be covering programming ideas and programming choices you guys can be making so that you guys can use some of the drills we've talked about, so that not only are you getting stronger in the clean, but we're starting to correct some of those problems you're having so that you never have to worry about a plateau in your strength. So my name is Coach Josh with GarageGangGyms.com. I'll see you guys next time.